I visited Sweetwater in Fort Wayne, Indiana to do a video on their 55-point inspection. But this video doesn't start when I land at Sweetwater. It started way before that when I bought my own guitar from Sweetwater and had not so great an experience. The guitar's action was high, there was issues with the nut, and overall I wasn't impressed with the guitar considering I was under the impression that Sweetwater did a 55-point inspection which included a full setup. Now Sweetwater reached out to me and said that they would like to make this right, and we talked, and one of the things that came up in the discussion was it would be very helpful if I knew what they were inspecting. So I asked them not only to tell me what the 55-point inspection entailed, but I also suggested that they publish it so everyone else could see. And they did. They published it on their website, and then a year later, they actually put it as a card and included it with every single guitar. So in this video, not only am I going to be going through the 55-point inspection at Sweetwater so we can all learn what it is, but more importantly, how is it possible that some people get a guitar and it's not perfect? We're going to explain all of that. And to start, we're going to start with Chris Roy. Chris Roy runs the 55-point inspection, or more importantly, the guitar gallery team, and he is going to help us understand all the levels of techs, the career pathing, the cost involved, the whole process. I even interviewed employees, not just management, and I got all the perspectives on how it all works. The first step of the 55-point guitar inspection starts with what's called a guitar handler. This is an employee that starts with little to no experience. It's an entry-level position. They're paid $14 an hour to start, and they can make an extra $1 if they are not late or miss a day of work. In other words, they make $15 an hour a week as like a bonus for basically being on time and being there every day. Now, what's important is Chris is going to explain all of the things that a guitar handler does. You guys hire somebody for stage one, right? What do you call it? What do you
Guitar handler.
Guitar handler.
Yes.
And they're going to come to work here and they're going to unbox guitars.
They're going to unbox first. Then they're going to learn to rebox.
Right.
Because now they know how to put the puzzle back together. So it's Christmas every day down this end. This end, you're putting puzzles back together. Then you become a photo turner. So you're working with photographers and you're bringing guitars in and out. You're learning how the guitars arrive and how they should look when they leave and how they should feel. And that gets you ready to start doing the roles where you're actually more hands-on with the actual adjustments and tuning and all that stuff.
And that position is called?
Tune and polish is the next step, which is after photo, before rebox.
Tune and polish is also referred to as a Tech 1. This person's responsible for not only wiping the guitar down and tuning it up, they're also responsible for making sure that the information about the guitar is inputted into the computer system with the serial number matching up, and of course starts the card process, which is filling out the card and making sure the pictures are correct.
Right. That's called Tech 1, and then you become a Tech 2.
Now, to better understand the Tech 2 position, I asked them if I could just hang out with an employee, and they introduced me to Grant. Grant is going to help you and I understand what it is that the Tech 2 position does at Sweetwater in the 55-point inspection.
Yeah, so we're going to cover, if you look here on the inspection card, we're going to cover these 4 sections, which is the majority of our 55-point inspection. So we'll be going over cosmetics, hardware, electronics, and lastly, playability. Just going to scan in here. I'm just going to give this a quick once over, make sure that there are no glaring issues with it. So far, so good. From there, we'll give it the old shake test. So basically make sure that, you know, all the electronics will function. If this were put in an environment where, you know, the solder joints might come loose or something like that. I'm gonna plug it in. And it's already pretty well in tune. We wanna make sure that the strings are nice and stretched. Do a quick electronics check. So I'm gonna cycle through all the various electronic components. So everything sounds good there. From there, we're going to tune the guitar. All right, so we're in tune. Next, we're going to check the relief. Get a capo on the first fret. Get our feeler gauges out.
Something I noticed right away was almost all the techs were using the Music Nomad Precision Setup Gauge set. And that's only important to mention because it's a $60 set, and that's an interesting idea that if you had one of these, you could check their measurements and check what they did, knowing you're using the same tools. They use a lot of Music Nomad and StewMac tools is what I noticed. And in case any of you are interested, I put links to those products down below in the description.
This one's looking pretty good, so I won't have to make any adjustments. From there, we're going to check the action.
I asked Grant where he was getting the specifications from on the measurements, and I asked him if he was getting them from the screens, the inputted information from the factories.
Correct.
So that sometimes is mandated by the manufacturer.
Yes.
Saying they want to see it at a certain way.
So then I asked him if there were some manufacturers that don't give you any information or specifications, and if that's the case, what do you do?
We have a general range of where we want everything to be. So here we have our target action tolerance.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So if there's no manufacturer specified information, we'll run off of that. So the action on here is within tolerance. So we're good there. Lastly, we'll check the intonation. We're pretty on the money there. So now that we've checked the three main parts of where the action, relief, and intonation need to be, we'll do a simple playability check. So we'll do yield, chromatic scale.
Now, something to point out right here is that what he's doing is checking for buzz and dead spots or dead notes through the actual amplifier. He's not listening to it acoustically, which is pretty standard. If this is something that you check, but you do it acoustically, and that's something that it bugs you if it's coming acoustically and not just through the amp, what they would suggest is that you would request a setup that would improve it past this standard.
And we're good there. So next comes my favorite part of the whole process. We can noodle. So, you know, if you just want to play a couple chords. Do some string bends. Make sure that nothing frets out. So from there, we're going to look over it once more. For any cosmetic issues, but this basically concludes the overall playability check of the instrument. Really want to make sure that we pay a lot of attention to the top and the bottom of the guitar.
I noticed that he used some kind of foot switch and changed the color of the light. And I asked him if he would share what he's doing with you because a lot of factories use this method as well.
Yeah, we have a white light and a yellow light, which simulates a warmer lighting. I'm sorry?
Can you toggle them? I want to.
Oh, yeah. White light, and then we've got our warmer light.
Yeah, I wanted that too. Thank you. That's an orange pedal. That's awesome.
So we're guitar nerds. We had to use a guitar pedal.
So we'll alternate between the lights, get different lighting environments, because there might be, you know, a scratch on a surface that won't be easily visible from one lighting compared to another. So once we verify that there's nothing cosmetically wrong a second time, it's time to fill out the card.
So while Grant was filling out his inspection card, I wanted to ask him a few questions. So one of the questions I ask him about right now is he given information? Does somebody come back to him, a manager, a team leader? Does somebody tell him if he's doing a good job? Is he accountable for the mistakes he might let pass through? And is there a process in which he knows he's doing well or he needs to improve?
Yeah. So we're tracked on like how many inspections that we do per day. Our supervisors are really good at coming back and providing feedback saying, hey, we've noticed a trend here where you might want to pay a little bit more attention because somebody further down the line found something.
He also explained not only does he sign the card, but his name, as you can see here, is connected to the guitar digitally in their database, which is kept for 6 months before they purge out the old guitar information. So if there's ever an issue, they know who to go back and talk to. So now we understand that the guitar handler does the unboxing, helps the photographers with getting the photos done, and of course puts the guitars back in the boxes with all the original accessories. The Tech 1, or Tune and Polish, will make sure that the guitar has all the accessories and accompaniments it's supposed to have and do a basic inspection of that guitar, plus enter in the information into the system. The Tech 2 does the bulk of the inspections. So what does a Tech 3 do?
So when a guitar needs more service, meaning it needs more time spent on it than we can do an inspection, it goes to a support tech. So that's the one step above inspection tech, and they can spend a little more time on that guitar. That allows us also to go back to the manufacturer with that data later and say, here's how many guitars in that line maybe had high action or had, blemishes in the paints or issues, that we can address with them. So it allows us to track the data. So this is really just at the first pass, it needed more service, but we want to invest that time because it's better for the environment, it's better for the company, both parties, to not have to ship a guitar back if we can make the adjustments happen here. So in this case, it'll go to the support tech. He'll put 15 to 20 minutes probably into the guitar to make sure that all the things are met. The rest of the inspection's already done, so once he's done, he feeds it back into the line, and that keeps the flow of guitars moving because our inspectors are staying busy. They're not spending extra time on guitars that take longer, which may slow the line down, but it allows the support techs to put that time in and keep feeding the line as well. So it keeps everybody busy along the whole production line.
I asked to speak to a Tech 3 and have them kind of show me what happens when a guitar needs to go to them after a Tech 2 can't pass it very quickly.
In this particular case, we have a scratch in the 4th fret and contamination on the binding on both sides.
Okay.
So we just go in here and take a closer look. So, in the case of the contamination, we could scrape the binding or potentially sand it. So both of these things we could fix in-house rather than having to send it back or send it to the guitar shop. So.
All right. So do you do that? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it? Out.
Sure.
And do you have a guideline of time that they want you to spend on an instrument?
It's roughly 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
On each guitar.
In that time frame, these techs can perform everything from buffing out scratches to imperfections, to fixing binding, to fixing frets, and essentially if they can't fix it in that time frame, then it escalates to the actual repair shop.
From what I can tell, the heart of the inspection happens at Tech 2.
Sure, absolutely.
That's right. That's the guy filtering or gal, right? Filtering. Ideal inspection time frame for them to do that is how long?
So the average, right? Because some you're going to have a Floyd Rose that's going to take, say, 14 minutes. You might have a Dreadnought that takes 8 minutes. So 10 is kind of the sweet spot where we really want everyone to be able to get through that guitar in that 10 minutes. And if they can't, that means it needs more service. That means it needs to see a Tech 3 who's going to spend that extra time, probably up to 20 minutes to 15, 20 minutes to kind of make sure whatever those issues are dealt with. And that allows the inspector to go back to the next guitar and keep the flow moving. Because the bigger issue is we've got 100 people in the production line. We got to all keep busy. If it slows here for any reason, everyone down here runs out of work.
So now I think at this point in the video, we understand a couple things. We understand what is making the 55-point inspection successful, and we also understand why it has limitations. Now at this point in the video, hopefully you've come to the same conclusion I did during this visit, which is the employees seem to be trained very well. The execution of their system seems to be extremely thought out and done very well. However, there are some numbers you just can't get around. They're moving 1,000 guitars a day. Just to give you a scenario, imagine if the employees only made a 1% margin of error in their inspections. That's 10 guitars a day, 50 to 70 guitars a week, almost 3,500 guitars a year, and that's at 1%. So it just makes sense that you're going to see a guitar with defects that come through. It's not possible to be 100% perfect. And also, don't forget, they don't inspect or do this to the guitars that are under $300. However, there was something I learned that I thought was even more interesting. Those same inspection reports are given to the manufacturers. So at the end of the month, you give a report to every manufacturer that you guys deal with, and they get to see, we could say their mistakes, but also their successes.
So we call it a first pass. Like when it comes to inspection, if it needs service at that point, it didn't make it through the first pass is all that means. It doesn't mean that guitar didn't move forward. In fact, it probably did,
right.
You know, but they have a percentage and they know, wow, you know, this many went through without a problem. So that's the first celebration for them. It's cool. And then it's, okay, the ones that did have a problem, what were those problems? So there's pie charts that are like, this is how many were cosmetic, this is how many were playability issues, this is how many were solder, you know, so that they can really kind of go back and go, do we have a massive problem? Do we have a problem with one model? Do we have a problem with one factory? Like, they could really narrow it down. And we give them the serial number of every single thing that's in there. So they could really trace it back to the root. And it's allowed them to better their own processes, which allows our process to be smoother. So it's a perpetuating good thing for everybody. It's elevating not only Sweetwater's brand, but the brand of all the vendors we work with. It's elevating what they sell too.
It's not what the 55-point inspection isn't. It's what it is, right?
Right.
Here's what it is. It's a system to minimize a customer's negative experience getting the guitar. Here's where I think the confusion sometimes happen in the end user, which is the value, like I said, the value they get, they think they're getting a free setup.
Right, right.
And that's not essentially what's happening. What's essentially happening is you're just holding the manufacturers accountable for the standards that they're setting, or the standards they should be setting.
Or we may say, we feel the tolerance needs to be a little closer to this, and we've come up with an agreement, and from then on, that's the way we put it in that screen.
Okay, so what we learned is that the guitars are inspected. They're given a certain amount of time, and if they can't pass, they're escalated to another tech who then can fix some of the minor issues. If they can't do it in a short amount of time, it's then sent to a repair shop, which will do one of three things. They will fix the issues and address it so it can be sold, mark the guitar as a demo, which then the blemishes will be disclosed and the issues will be disclosed to you on their website, or the guitar will be returned to the manufacturer. But either way, the information is given to the manufacturer so they can make improvements.
If it doesn't have a tremolo, are you really checking for a tremolo? Well, you're checking it's not there,
right?
So it's a point, but you're not checking its functionality if it doesn't exist. So it's points of inspection,
right?
And that's kind of the
and that's the other thing I learned from you is that everything goes through. So, for instance, if somebody once returns a guitar, it goes through inspection process again, right, before it's resold. And same within the store, if somebody requests a guitar to be checked out at the store. But what's interesting about that is there's an interesting commitment because as you grow, your expense grows with it. If you want to sell more guitars, you have to hire more people.
Right.
So there's 100 techs on staff.
Guitar handlers and Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3. So basically anything in the production line that's going to be part of the inspection, that's 100 people.
Okay. 3 years ago, what was the size of the crew then? Do you know? I'm just trying to get a gauge of how you
30?
30.
Yeah, probably 30.
So three times the growth in 3 years.
Yeah.
Did about 45.
45.
45, yeah.
That's okay, so doubled. You doubled the growth in 3 years, approximately. Again, we're not. No one's holding it's what's numbers between friends, right? It's just give a gauge, right?
More than doubled.
Yeah, more than doubled.
Yeah.
Just amazing that you can start somebody off and literally they can see a future here in 5 or 10 years. And based on your growth, the positions will be available because as you grow, those positions open up. So it's very cool. Very, very impressive. Something to add is there is a full-time product manager from Fender and Gibson on site because they do so much volume with those brands. They actually have someone on site to help them make sure that they're hitting those standards. So what did I learn about the 55-point inspection? Well, first, I learned it's not a setup. It's essentially just a basic run through the guitar, and sure, our adjustments made and our things addressed, of course, but within a constricted time, of course, it's got to be cost effective. Now, they do have a full repair shop, and not only can you send them guitars to be repaired, more importantly, they can do modifications to current guitars before they even ship. For instance, they can install stainless steel frets or have the guitar plec, like I did in a video. If you want to see that link, you can look in the description. So more importantly, not only do they do mods, they can do full setups. So the 55-point inspection is their wholehearted attempt to ensure that you have a pleasant unboxing experience when you get your new guitar. And although it can't guarantee it, it has reduced it greatly, as you can see from this entire process that I've covered. And I have to say, it's changed my perspective to the point where I really believe you'll have a positive experience. And if you don't, it is very clear that they welcome the accountability. So let them know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun and a lot of work to make it, and I have to give credit to Sweetwater for allowing me to learn all about their company, their culture, and of course, meeting their employees. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like. I appreciate your time, and as always, till the next time, know your gear.